The red warning lights flashed across the bridge of the Earth Defense Station as Commander Jake Morrison stared at the incoming transmission. The message had traveled across 3 star systems to reach them, and the alien script on his screen made his stomach turn cold. Lieutenant Amy Davis worked quickly at her translation console while the bridge crew waited in tense silence. "Sir, I have the full translation ready," Davis said with a shaky voice. She was young but brilliant with languages and had spent years learning the complex alien communication systems that humanity had encountered in their short time among the stars. Morrison nodded for her to continue. The bridge fell completely silent except for the soft hum of the life support systems. Every officer present knew this message could change everything for the human race. "The transmission is from Ambassador Zethkar of the Vrelian Confederacy, speaking for the Galactic Council." Davis began reading from her screen. "To the species known as humans of the planet Earth, the Galactic Council has observed your recent expansion beyond your home solar system with growing concern. Your species shows dangerous tendencies toward aggression and unpredictable behavior that threatens the peaceful order we have maintained for over 2,000 years. Morrison felt. His jaw tightened but remained silent. The Galactic Council consisted of 12 alien species who controlled most of the known galaxy. They had rules about everything and seemed to think they owned all the stars in space. Davis continued reading. "The Council hereby offers humanity 2 choices. First, you may accept protected status under Council authority. This means all human activity will be restricted to your home planet Earth and your colony world Mars. You will receive Council protection and guidance in exchange for following our laws and customs. Second, if you refuse this generous offer, the Council will be forced to take military action to preserve galactic peace and order." The bridge remained deadly quiet for several long seconds after Davis finished reading. Morrison could feel the anger building in his chest, but he kept his expression calm. His crew was watching him, and they needed to see strength right now, not fear or rage. "How long do we have to respond?" Morrison asked. "The message says we have 30 standard days to give our answer, sir," Davis replied. Morrison turned to look out the main view screen at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, Captain Rick Bennett was commanding the exploration ship UES Pioneer on humanity's most important mission yet. Bennett and his crew had discovered a beautiful world 3 systems away from Earth that could house millions of human colonists. The planet was rich with resources and had perfect conditions for human life. Dr. Lisa Parker, the mission's chief scientist, had sent reports about amazing discoveries on the new world. The planet had vast oceans, fertile lands, and even signs of ancient ruins that could teach humanity about other civilizations. Chief Engineer Tony Rodriguez had found mineral deposits that could power human technology for centuries. Now the aliens wanted to force humanity back into their small corner of space like animals in a cage. Morrison had spent his entire career preparing for this day. He knew the Galactic Council would eventually try to limit human expansion, but he had hoped they would have more time. The communication console beeped with an urgent message. Morrison walked over to see what new crisis was developing. The message was from President Helen Garcia back on Earth, requesting an immediate conference with all military commanders. "Davis, open a secure channel to Earth Command," Morrison ordered. "Priority Alpha clearance." Within minutes, the main screen showed President Garcia sitting in the Oval Office alongside Defense Secretary Carl Johnson. Garcia looked tired and worried while Johnson appeared ready for a fight. Morrison had worked with both leaders for years and knew their very different approaches to problems. "Commander Morrison, I assume you received the alien ultimatum," President Garcia said without any greeting. "Yes, Madam President. I have my translation team working on every detail to make sure we understand their exact meaning," Morrison replied. Defense. Secretary Johnson leaned forward in his chair. "Jake, this is exactly what we prepared for. Our intelligence reports have been warning about this for months. The Galactic Council sees humanity as a threat to their control." President Garcia held up her hand to stop Johnson from continuing. "Carl, we need to consider all our options here. These aliens have technology far beyond ours and fleets that could destroy every human world in a matter of days." Morrison understood the president's concerns, but he also knew what surrender would mean for humanity's future. Madam President, if I may speak freely, accepting their terms would be the end of human expansion into space. We would be trapped forever on just 2 worlds while 12 alien species control thousands of planets. That's better than being wiped out completely, Garcia replied. We have to think about the survival of our species. Johnson stood up and walked to a wall map showing human colonies and exploration routes. Helen, survival isn't just about staying alive. It's about remaining free to choose our own destiny. These aliens want to turn us into pets in a zoo. Morrison watched the debate between his civilian leaders and made his own decision. He had sworn an oath to protect humanity, and that meant more than just protecting human lives. It meant protecting human freedom and the right to reach for the stars. Madam President, what are your orders regarding Captain Bennett and the Pioneer? Mission? Morrison asked carefully. Garcia was quiet for a long moment before answering. Tell Bennett to return immediately. We cannot risk provoking the aliens while we consider their offer. Morrison felt his heart sink, but he kept his expression neutral. Understood, Madam President. I will send the recall order right away. After the communication ended, Morrison sat alone in his command chair thinking about humanity's future. The bridge crew had returned to their normal duties, but he could feel their tension. Everyone knew that the next few weeks would determine whether humans remained free or became prisoners in their own solar system. Morrison opened a secure communication channel to send 2 very different messages. The first was an official recall order to Captain Bennett, telling him to return to Earth immediately and abandon the colony mission. The second was a coded personal message that only Bennett would understand. The coded message was simple but clear. Continue your mission, establish the colony, make it strong. Humans don't ask for permission to reach for the stars. Morrison closed the communication channel and looked out at the stars again. President Garcia wanted to negotiate with the aliens, and Defense Secretary Johnson wanted to prepare for war. Morrison understood both positions, but he also knew that sometimes the best response was to simply refuse to accept the enemy's terms. The next 30 days would determine humanity's place in the galaxy. Morrison intended to make sure that place was wherever humans chose to go, not where aliens told them they could stay. 3 weeks had passed since the Galactic Council delivered their ultimatum to humanity. Captain Rick Bennett stood on the bridge of the UES Pioneer, watching the beautiful blue and green world they had named New Haven slowly rotate beneath them. The planet was everything the initial surveys had promised and more. Dr. Lisa Parker walked onto the bridge carrying her latest biological analysis reports. Her face showed the excitement that came with discovering something amazing every single day on this new world. The planet's ecosystem was rich beyond their wildest dreams and completely compatible with human life. Captain, you need to see these latest findings, Parker said as she handed him a datapad. The mineral surveys Chief Rodriguez completed yesterday show this planet has enough rare Earth elements to power human civilization for 1,000 years. Bennett took the report and scrolled through the data. Tony Rodriguez had been working around the clock with his engineering teams to map the planet's resources. What they found was incredible wealth buried in the ground just waiting to be extracted. The biological diversity is just as impressive, Parker continued. We've cataloged over 2,000 new species in just the areas we've explored so far. The plant life could provide new medicines and food sources that could revolutionize human agriculture. Bennett nodded, but his mind was focused on the encrypted message he had received from Commander Morrison 3 weeks ago. The official orders told him to return to Earth immediately and abandon the mission. The unofficial message told him to continue building the colony and make it strong. The Pioneer had been designed as an exploration vessel, but Bennett had brought enough equipment and personnel to establish a permanent human presence on New Haven. 200 volunteers had signed up for the mission, knowing they might never see Earth again. They were farmers, engineers, scientists, doctors, and soldiers who believed in humanity's right to expand into the galaxy. Chief Engineer Rodriguez appeared on the bridge with dirt on his uniform and a wide smile on his face. His teams had been working on the surface for weeks, setting up the basic infrastructure needed for a permanent colony. The work was hard, but everyone knew they were building something that would last for generations. Captain, the fusion power plant is online and running at full capacity, Rodriguez reported. The water purification systems are working perfectly and we've established secure communication arrays. The colony can now support 5,000 people if needed. Bennett walked to the main view screen and looked down at the construction sites, scattered across New Haven's largest continent. Prefabricated buildings dotted the landscape like small cities rising from empty wilderness. Landing pads had been cleared for supply ships, and defensive positions had been built on the high ground, surrounding each settlement. Any response from Earth Command about our extended stay? Rodriguez asked quietly. He knew about the recall orders but also understood why Bennett had chosen to ignore them. Radio silence from official channels, Bennett replied. But our deep space sensors are picking up increased military activity throughout human space. Morrison is preparing for something big. Parker looked up from her scientific equipment with concern. You think the aliens will actually attack? Bennett had been thinking about that question for weeks. The Galactic Council had never faced serious resistance from any species in over 2,000 years. They were used to making demands and having them followed without question. Humanity's defiance would be something completely new for them. The Council expects us to surrender without a fight, Bennett said. They've grown comfortable ruling through fear and superior technology, but they've never faced a species that simply refuses to accept their authority. The communication console beeped with an incoming message from the surface. Colony Administrator Nancy Cooper was reporting the completion of another residential sector. The farming teams led by Bill Turner had successfully planted their first crops using seeds brought from Earth. Every day brought new progress toward making New Haven a true human home. Bennett opened a ship-wide communication channel to address his entire crew. The 200 men and women aboard the Pioneer had become something more than explorers during their time at New Haven. They had become pioneers in the truest sense of the word, claiming a new world for all humanity. This is the captain speaking, Bennett began. I know many of you have been wondering about our extended mission here at New Haven. I want to be completely honest with all of you about our situation. The bridge fell silent as Bennett chose his words carefully. His crew deserved to know the truth about what they were facing. They had volunteered for exploration, but now they were part of something much more dangerous and important. Earth Command has ordered us to return home immediately, Bennett continued. The Galactic Council has given humanity an ultimatum to cease all expansion beyond our home solar system. They want us to abandon New Haven and accept their authority over human activities in space. Bennett paused for a moment before delivering the most important words of his career. I am choosing to disobey those recall orders. New Haven represents humanity's future among the stars, and I will not abandon it because some aliens think they own the galaxy. Any crew member who wishes to return to Earth will be placed aboard our next supply ship with full honors and no questions asked. The response was immediate and overwhelming. From every section of the ship came voices declaring their intention to stay and defend the colony. Engineers shouted their commitment over the ship's communication system, while scientists pledged to continue their research. The medical staff announced they would stay to care for the colonists, and the security teams promised to defend New Haven against any threat. Bennett felt pride swell in his chest as he listened to his crew's responses. These men and women understood what they were really fighting for. This wasn't just about one planet or one colony. This was about humanity's right to determine its own future without asking permission from alien overlords. Dr. Parker walked up to Bennett with another data pad in her hands. This time her expression was serious rather than excited. Captain, I've been analyzing those ancient ruins we discovered in the southern continent. The structures are definitely artificial and very old, but there's something else you need to know. Bennett took the pad and read Parker's preliminary analysis of the mysterious structures they had found scattered across New Haven's surface. The ruins were clearly built by an intelligent species, but they appeared to have been abandoned thousands of years ago. The construction techniques and material composition suggest this civilization was highly advanced, Parker explained. But all the evidence points to a sudden abandonment rather than gradual decline. It's like they just disappeared overnight. Bennett stared at the images of empty cities and unused technology scattered across the planet's surface. Any theories about What happened to them? Parker nodded grimly. Based on the timeline and some of the artifacts we've recovered, I believe this species faced the same ultimatum from the Galactic Council that we're facing now. The difference is, they chose to surrender and were relocated to what the Council calls Protectorate worlds. The implications of Parker's discovery hit Bennett like a physical blow. The Galactic Council had done this before to other species who dared to expand beyond their assigned borders. The beautiful planet of New Haven was actually a graveyard for another civilization's dreams of freedom. Keep analyzing those ruins, Doctor, Bennett ordered. I want to know everything about what happened here and how we can avoid the same fate. Bennett looked out at New Haven's surface one more time before making his final decision. The colony would stay and grow stronger. Humanity would not repeat the mistakes of the long-dead civilization, whose bones lay buried beneath their new home. This time would be different, because humans don't ask for permission. Admiral Korthvel stood on the command bridge of his massive dreadnought, watching the human solar system appear on his tactical displays. The Hegemony Navy had never been defeated in over 1,000 years of service to the Galactic Council. His fleet of 12 warships represented enough firepower to destroy entire worlds, and had been sent to teach humanity a lesson about defying Council authority. The alien admiral studied the intelligence reports about human military capabilities with growing confidence. Humanity had only been in space for less than 2 centuries, and their technology was primitive compared to Council standards. Their largest warships were barely the size of his escort vessels, and their weapons systems were crude by galactic standards. Communications. Officer Yanthara, open a channel to the human command structure, Korthvel ordered. I want to speak with their military leader before we begin the demonstration of Council power. The communication system activated and showed Commander Morrison sitting calmly in what appeared to be a military command center. Korthvel had expected to see fear or panic in the human's eyes, but Morrison appeared completely relaxed, as if he had been expecting this conversation. I am Admiral Korthvel of the Hegemony Navy speaking for the Galactic Council, the alien commander began. You have ignored our generous offer of protected status and continued your illegal expansion into Council territory. This defiance ends now. Morrison leaned back in his chair and smiled slightly before responding. Admiral, I appreciate you coming all this way to have this conversation in person. However, I need to correct you on a few points. First, we never requested protected status from anyone. Second, the worlds we have colonized are not Council territory because the Council does not own the galaxy. Korthvel felt his anger building at the human's casual response. No species had ever spoken to a Council representative with such disrespect. Human, you clearly do not understand the situation you face. My fleet has the power to destroy every human world in this system. Surrender now and accept relocation to designated Protectorate worlds. That's an interesting offer, Admiral, Morrison replied calmly. But I have a counter-proposal. You can withdraw your fleet from human space and we can discuss mutual boundaries, like civilized beings. Or you can discover why humanity has survived and thrived in a dangerous galaxy. The alien admiral stared at Morrison in complete shock. Never in his long military career had any species attempted to negotiate with the Council as equals. The humans appeared to believe they could somehow resist the overwhelming technological superiority of his fleet. Very well, human, Korthvel snarled. You have chosen destruction over wisdom. Prepare your weapons for demonstration purposes. Show them what Council power looks like. The massive alien dreadnoughts began powering their main weapon systems while moving into attack formation. Korthvel intended to destroy a few human military installations to demonstrate the futility of resistance before demanding surrender again. Morrison watched the alien fleet movements on his tactical screens while maintaining his calm expression. Admiral, you're making a serious mistake. But since you insist on this course of action, let me show you something about human military doctrine. The communication ended, and Morrison turned to his tactical officer. Colonel Wright, activate Project Prometheus. All stations report ready. Throughout the human solar system, hundreds of hidden weapons platforms came online simultaneously. The kinetic kill satellites had been positioned months ago in preparation for exactly this scenario. Each platform carried tungsten rods that could be accelerated to incredible speeds. Using electromagnetic launchers, Lieutenant Colonel Pete Harrison commanded the stealth ship UES Shadow, one of 50 similar vessels hidden throughout the asteroid field beyond Mars. His ship was barely visible to alien sensors and carried enough firepower to cripple much larger vessels. Harrison had spent years training for asymmetric warfare against technologically superior enemies. All Shadow units, this is Harrison, he broadcast on the encrypted tactical channel. Execute lightning strike pattern. Target the larger ships. First and focus on their weapon systems. Make every shot count. The attack began without warning as dozens of kinetic projectiles slammed into the alien fleet at tremendous speeds. The Council ships had powerful energy shields designed to stop plasma weapons and particle beams, but they were not prepared for simple chunks of metal traveling at relativistic velocities. 3 of the smaller alien vessels exploded immediately as the kinetic strikes penetrated their hulls and destroyed vital systems. The larger dreadnoughts survived the initial barrage but suffered significant damage to their weapon arrays and propulsion systems. Quote, Vell stared at his damage reports in complete disbelief. His advanced warships were being torn apart by primitive, human weapons that shouldn't have been able to penetrate their defenses. The humans were using tactics completely outside his understanding of proper fleet combat. Engineering. Report status on main weapons. Vell demanded. Admiral, we have lost 60% of our primary batteries, the engineering officer replied. The human weapons are somehow bypassing our shield systems entirely. Major Sophie Clark commanded a squadron of 12 stealth frigates that emerged from the shadow of Earth's moon like hunting wolves. Her ships were equipped with guided missiles that appeared as space debris until the final seconds before impact. The missiles had been designed specifically to exploit weaknesses in Council ship designs discovered through years of intelligence gathering. Fire pattern Delta, Clark ordered her squadron. Target their sensor arrays and communication systems. Blind them first, then finish them. The human missiles struck their targets with devastating precision, while Harrison's stealth ships continued their hit-and-run attacks from multiple directions. The alien fleet found itself fighting an enemy that refused to engage in traditional battle formations. Back on New Haven, Captain Bennett received an urgent communication from his deep space sensors. A Council survey ship had discovered the human colony and was demanding immediate evacuation of all personnel. Bennett knew this was the moment of truth that would determine whether humanity kept their new world or lost it forever. This is Captain Bennett to all colony personnel, he announced over the settlement communication system. We have an alien survey ship in orbit demanding our surrender. I need every able-bodied colonist to report to their assigned emergency stations immediately. Dr. Parker and Chief Rodriguez joined Bennett in the colony command center as reports came in from all the settlement areas. The 200 colonists were spread across several sites, but they had been preparing for this possibility since their arrival. Doctor, I need you to download everything from the ancient ruins research into our emergency data cores, Bennett ordered. If something happens to us, that information needs to survive. Rodriguez was already working on the defensive systems they had installed around each settlement. The colony had been built with the assumption that they might need to defend it someday. Mining charges had been converted into improvised weapons, and the construction equipment could be used as mobile barriers. Captain, the alien ship is moving into bombardment position, Lieutenant Karen Mills reported from the communication station. They're powering weapons and demanding we evacuate within 1 hour. Bennett looked out the command center windows, at the homes and farms his people had built on New Haven. Children were playing in the gardens while their parents worked to build a better future. This world represented everything humanity could become if they remained free to choose their own destiny. Open a channel to the alien ship, Bennett ordered. I want to speak with their commander. The main screen showed an alien officer who appeared surprised to be receiving a response from what he expected to be a primitive human outpost. Bennett stood straight and spoke with the authority of someone defending his home and family. This is Captain Rick Bennett, commanding officer of New Haven Colony, he began. You are in violation of human territorial space and are ordered to withdraw immediately. This world belongs to humanity and we will defend it. The alien officer looked confused by the human's confident response. Primitive human, you cannot resist council authority. Evacuate your illegal settlement or face the consequences. Bennett smiled grimly before delivering his final answer. We already gave our response to your council's ultimatum. Humans don't ask for permission to live free, and we don't accept orders from alien overlords. If you want this world, come and take it. The Battle of Sol had been raging for 6 hours, and Admiral Korthvel could not believe what his sensors were showing him. Half of his mighty fleet was either destroyed or severely damaged by an enemy that should have surrendered within minutes of his arrival. The humans fought like nothing he had ever encountered in his long military career. Lieutenant Colonel Harrison's stealth ships continued their relentless attacks from every direction, while Major Clark's frigates launched wave after wave of guided missiles. The alien admiral watched his tactical displays with growing horror as his advanced warships were picked apart by what appeared to be primitive human weapons. Admiral, we have lost all communication with the destroyer Kenthvel and the cruiser Jorthara, his communications officer reported. The remaining ships are reporting critical damage to their primary systems. Korthvel slammed his fist against his command chair in frustration. His fleet had conquered dozens of worlds using traditional formation combat where superior firepower and technology guaranteed victory. The humans refused to fight according to established galactic warfare conventions. Commander Morrison watched the battle unfold from his command center with grim satisfaction. Project Prometheus was working exactly as planned, and the alien fleet was learning that human military doctrine focused on results rather than honor. His kinetic kill satellites had proven that simple physics could overcome the most advanced energy shields. Colonel Wright, status report on our defensive grid, Morrison ordered. Sir, we have lost 12 satellites, but the remaining platforms are still fully operational, Wright replied. The alien shields cannot stop solid projectiles at these velocities. Morrison nodded and opened a communication channel to all human forces. All units, maintain current attack patterns. Do not allow the enemy to regroup or establish defensive positions. Keep them off balance and confused. The human strategy was working because it completely ignored traditional fleet tactics. Instead of massive ships engaging in formal battle lines, humanity used small, fast vessels that struck without warning and disappeared before the aliens could respond effectively. Every attack came from a different angle with different weapons at different ranges. On New Haven, Captain Bennett faced his own desperate battle as the Council survey ship moved into bombardment position above the colony. The alien vessel was much smaller than the dreadnoughts attacking Earth, but it still carried enough firepower to destroy every human settlement on the planet. Chief Rodriguez had worked through the night preparing the colony's improvised defenses. Mining charges had been converted into orbital mines and positioned in the alien ship's most likely approach routes. The construction equipment had been modified with armor plating and weapon systems salvaged from the Pioneer. Captain, I have 60 volunteers ready to man the defensive positions, Rodriguez reported. We also have 40 people working on evacuating the children and elderly to the emergency bunkers. Bennett looked at the tactical display showing the alien ship's position and felt pride in his colonists' courage. These men and women had come to New Haven seeking a better life for their families, and now they were willing to fight an alien warship to protect their new home. Dr. Parker rushed into the command center carrying a data pad with urgent information. Her research into the ancient ruins had revealed something that could change everything about humanity's understanding of the Galactic Council and their methods. Captain, I've decrypted more of the alien archives from the ruins, Parker said breathlessly. The species that lived here before us didn't just surrender to the Council. They were systematically destroyed even after they accepted protectorate status. Bennett took the datapad and read Parker's translation of the ancient records. The extinct civilization had detailed their interactions with the Galactic Council over several decades. They had initially resisted but eventually agreed to relocate to designated worlds under Council protection. According to these records, the Council moved them to a barren world with limited resources, Parker continued. Then they gradually reduced the support provided to the protectorate colonies until the entire species died out from starvation and disease. The implications of Parker's discovery were staggering. The Galactic Council didn't just control other species through superior technology and military force. They systematically eliminated any species that might eventually become a threat to their authority. "Doctor, are you certain about this translation?" Bennett asked. "I've checked it 3 times with different linguistic analysis programs," Parker replied. "The evidence is clear. The Council has used this same pattern with at least 6 different species over the past 2,000 years. Bennett understood now why Commander Morrison had ordered him to continue the mission despite the recall orders. This wasn't just about one human colony, or even about humanity's right to expand into space. This was about species survival and the right to exist as free beings in the galaxy. The alien survey ship began its attack run on the main colony settlement, just as Bennett finished reading Parker's research. The ship's plasma weapons carved deep trenches in the ground around the buildings, while the colonists took cover in their prepared positions. Rodriguez triggered the first wave of orbital mines as the alien ship passed through the defensive perimeter. The explosions rocked the enemy vessel, but its shields absorbed most of the damage. However, the mines served their real purpose by forcing the ship into a predictable flight path. "Now," Bennett ordered quietly. The colony's hidden railgun fired a single tungsten projectile at the alien ship from a concealed position in the nearby mountains. The weapon had been built using plans from the ancient ruins combined with human engineering knowledge. The projectile struck the ship's lower hull and punched completely through its armor plating. The alien vessel spun out of control and crashed into New Haven's largest lake with a tremendous splash. Bennett watched the impact, sight through his binoculars, while his people cheered from their defensive positions around the colony. "Rescue teams to the crash site," Bennett ordered over the communication system. "Take the survivors prisoner, but treat them according to human military protocols. We're not barbarians like the Council." Back in the Sol system, Admiral Korthvel made the decision that would change galactic history forever. His proud fleet was in ruins, and the humans showed no signs of stopping their relentless attacks. For the first time in Council military history, he was forced to order a retreat. "All ships, withdraw to minimum safe distance," Korthvel commanded. "Prepare to jump to hyperspace on my signal." Lieutenant Colonel Harrison's stealth ships pursued the fleeing alien vessels to the edge of the solar system before breaking off their attack. The message was clear to any alien observers. Humanity would defend its territory with deadly force, and superior technology meant nothing against superior tactics and determination. Commander Morrison opened a system-wide communication channel to address all human forces. "This is Morrison to all units. The alien fleet is in full retreat. We have successfully defended human space against Council aggression." The cheers from every human ship and station in the solar system could be heard over the communication network. Humanity had faced the mighty Galactic Council in open combat and emerged victorious. The galaxy would never underestimate the determination of free humans again. But Morrison knew this was only the beginning. The Council would return with larger fleets and more advanced weapons. The real test of human resolve was yet to come, and it would determine whether humanity remained free or joined the extinct species whose bones lay buried on a dozen worlds throughout Council territory. Bennett stood in the wreckage of the alien survey ship surrounded by his victorious colonists while Dr. Parker documented everything they could learn from the captured technology. New Haven would remain a human world, but now it would also serve as a symbol of resistance against galactic tyranny. The war for human freedom had officially begun, and both sides now understood that this conflict would determine the future of every species in the galaxy. Humans had proven they would not ask permission to be free. 6 months after the Battle of Sol, the galaxy had changed in ways that no one could have predicted. Admiral Morrison stood in the bridge of his new flagship, watching dozens of human colonization ships prepare for departure to star systems across the galaxy. What had begun as a simple demand for human submission had become a revolution that was spreading to every corner of known space. The Galactic Council had made their final desperate attempt to crush human resistance by assembling the largest military fleet in galactic history. Supreme Admiral Yaltheron commanded over 200 warships from all 12 member species of the Council. The massive armada was heading toward New Haven with orders to destroy the human colony and make an example that would terrify any other species considering rebellion. Captain Bennett watched the approaching alien fleet from his command center. on New Haven while coordinating with the Free Worlds Alliance that had formed around the human colony. Dr. Parker's research into the ancient ruins had been shared with dozens of species who had discovered the truth about Council genocide policies. The galaxy was learning that the Council's peaceful order was built on the bones of extinct civilizations. Chief Rodriguez had spent the past months converting New Haven into a fortress world while helping other species establish their own resistance movements. The planet now hosted refugees from 6 different alien species who had chosen freedom over Council protection. The mining equipment had been converted into weapons manufacturing, while the research facilities produced new technologies based on discoveries from the ancient ruins. Captain, we have confirmation that the Zephyrian Collective and the Mandorian Republic have officially withdrawn from the Galactic Council, Lieutenant Mills reported from the communications station. That leaves the Council with only 8 member species and less than half their original military strength. Bennett nodded as he studied the tactical displays showing Allied positions throughout the star system. The Free Worlds Alliance now included humans and 4 alien species who had chosen independence over submission. Their combined fleets were smaller than the Council Armada, but they had learned human tactics and were ready to fight for their freedom. Morrison received updates from Lieutenant Colonel Harrison, who was leading reconnaissance missions deep into Council territory. The stealth ships had discovered something that changed everything about humanity's understanding of the galactic situation. The Council member species were not united in their support for the war against humanity. Admiral, our intelligence indicates that 3 more Council species are considering joining the Alliance, Harrison reported over the secure communication channel. The Hegemony Navy has lost over 60% of its ships to human tactics, and the other species are questioning whether continuing this war serves their interests. The truth was that the Galactic Council had always been held together by fear, rather than loyalty. For 2,000 years, no species had successfully resisted Council authority, and the member worlds had accepted their role as junior partners in exchange for protection from the Council's military power. Humanity's victories had shattered the myth of Council invincibility. Dr. Parker made another crucial discovery while analyzing data from captured Council ships. The alien technology was not as advanced as it appeared, and much of their superiority came from having access to the accumulated knowledge of dozens of extinct civilizations. The Council had been stealing technology from conquered species for millennia. Bennett, look at this, Parker said as she showed him her analysis of Council weapon systems. These plasma cannons are based on designs from a species called the Architects who were eliminated 800 years ago. The shield generators came from the builders who disappeared 600 years ago. Bennett understood the implications immediately. The Council doesn't innovate. They just steal technology from the species they destroy. Exactly, Parker replied. And since they've been eliminating their most creative and innovative species, their technological development has actually been declining for centuries. Human engineering is already superior to current Council capabilities in many areas. The final battle began when Supreme Admiral Yaltheron's massive fleet arrived at New Haven, expecting to find a small human colony defended by primitive weapons. Instead, they encountered a fully militarized world supported by allied fleets from multiple species who had all learned to fight using human tactical doctrines. Morrison arrived with the main human battle fleet just as the aliens began their attack. The combined human and alien alliance forces implemented a strategy that had never been attempted in galactic warfare history. Instead of defending fixed positions, the entire allied fleet scattered throughout the star system and began coordinated attacks from every direction simultaneously. Aaron watched in horror as his carefully organized battle formations were torn apart by enemies who refused to fight, according to established military conventions. Human stealth ships appeared behind his largest dreadnoughts, while Allied vessels used kamikaze attacks to destroy ships 10 times their size. The disciplined fleet combat that had dominated galactic warfare for millennia proved useless against enemies who prioritized results over military tradition. Supreme Admiral, we have lost over 100 ships and the remaining vessels are scattered across the system, his tactical officer reported. The enemy is using tactics we cannot counter with conventional fleet formations. The turning point came when Captain Bennett's ground forces captured another council ship that had been forced to land on New Haven's surface. The alien crew led by Science Commander Venthara found themselves prisoners of a species that treated captured enemies with dignity and respect. This was completely different from Council military doctrine, which considered surrender to be shameful. "Why? Do you fight so hard for this insignificant world?" Venthara asked Bennett during her interrogation. "The Council offers stability and order. Your resistance brings only chaos and destruction." Bennett looked at the alien officer with something approaching pity. "Commander, your Council has convinced you that freedom is chaos and slavery is order. We fight because this world represents our children's future, and we will not allow alien overlords to determine human destiny." The battle ended when Supreme Admiral Yaltheron's flagship was destroyed by a coordinated attack from 6 different human ships. The remaining Council forces fled the system in complete disarray, while Morrison's fleet pursued them to the edge of known space. The mighty Galactic Council had been decisively defeated by a species they had dismissed as primitive barbarians. The peace negotiations took place on New Haven, with representatives from the surviving Council species and the growing Free Worlds Alliance. Morrison and Bennett stood together as humanity's representatives while President Garcia participated via long-range communication from Earth. "The Starfall Accords are simple," Morrison announced to the assembled delegates. "Every species has the right to determine its own destiny without interference from any council or empire. The galaxy belongs to all intelligent life, not to any self-appointed authority." The alien delegates signed the treaty with varying degrees of reluctance, while the Alliance representatives celebrated their victory over tyranny. The Galactic Council still existed, but it now controlled less than half its original territory and had to compete with the Free Worlds Alliance for influence among independent species. Bennett addressed the final session of the peace conference with words that would be remembered throughout galactic history. "Today we have proven that freedom cannot be destroyed by superior technology or overwhelming force. Every species in this galaxy now knows that their destiny belongs to them, not to any council that claims authority over free worlds." Morrison added the final statement that defined humanity's place in the new galactic order. "Humans don't ask for permission to reach for the stars, because we understand something the old council forgot. Freedom is not a gift that can be granted or taken away. Freedom is a birthright that belongs to every thinking being in the universe." The galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had not just won their war for independence. They had reminded every species in known space what it meant to be truly free and willing to fight for that freedom, against any enemy no matter how powerful they appeared to be.